So we just had some pretty bombshell leaks coming out of Sony alpha rumors about a new FX30. So apparently this will be very similar to the FX3, except it will be an APS-C sensor, as well as be priced around $2,500. Now this camera is supposed to be being announced sometime in late September. I do wonder when the new ZV camera is coming out. I've been talking about it for a while, and so has Sony alpha rumors. I think they believe it will be sometime in October. I tend to believe it would be sometime in September, very shortly. But either way, I think a new ZV camera is coming as well. The reason that I bring up the new ZV-E camera is because I do believe this is gonna sit above the ZV-E10. But now I wonder how much above this camera could possibly sit if this new FX30 Cinema Camera is coming out. So I do think this is a pretty interesting camera, and I can see it selling well, especially if let's say that the dynamic range is really good on it, as well as the low light. This is also supposed to have a 12 megapixel sensor, so the same megapixel count that is in the FX3 and the Sony a7S III. It's supposed to have pretty much a very similar interface as the FX3's new firmware update interface. I do see this as Sony pushing further and further into the video category and maybe a little bit less out of the photography side. Now we do have strong suspicions that a Sony a7R5 is also going to be coming out sometime shortly, so maybe my speculation is a little bit unwarranted. Another thing I wonder about this new FX30 is, will it be like the FX3 where it has pretty much the same photo capabilities as the a7S III, which I know is only a 12 megapixel sensor, but is still a very capable stills camera in a lot of different ways. At least it's very fast, and honestly to me 12 megapixels works really great as long as you're not cropping in too much. So if it does have really good photography features as well, and they're placing it somewhere around 2,500, I can really see this biting in to the Fujifilm X-H2S, especially considering that camera was really poised more towards the video side than the photography side. What will that mean for that camera if Sony brings out this camera with some great dynamic range, hopefully some really good low light, and we know that they're gonna have extremely excellent autofocus. They pretty much always do. Now, considering that this is a smaller sensor, I would be very interested to see, and I know a lot of people won't agree, but I think eventually it's gonna have to go that way. I would be interested to see them kind of work around with maybe using some computational videography.
No, God, please, no!
To really get you really good on the dynamic range side. I do think it is super impressive what dynamic range you can get out of an iPhone compared to even a mirrorless camera. Often I use my iPhone even over my a7S III in a lot of situations where you have a really blown out background and some shadows in the foreground. Whatever they're able to do with that computational photography makes it pretty impressive. Now, of course, on the video side, it still has that weird digital look, as well as having that extremely small sensor means a terrible low light. So I'm not saying that there's not plenty of advantages to an interchangeable lens camera, but I do think that interchangeable lens cameras need to adopt at least some features from the digital smartphones if they're gonna stay relevant over the next 5 years. But that is pretty much all the information that we know. It's supposed to be late September coming out. Are you excited about a camera like this? Do you think it's gonna be priced right? Do you think this is maybe just a money grab and you're not very interested in an APS-C Cinema Camera? Let me know all that in the comment section below. If you've liked this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. And until next time, peace.